South Africa has a new kid on the political block, with its sights set on the upcoming local government elections. Unite for Change. It is a merger between the parties of Dr. Musimaimani Sungezo Zibi and Patricia de Lille. Today, we are joined by Brett Herron, the Secretary General of the Good Party, member of the Western Cape Provincial Legislature, and one of the leaders of Unite. Brett, thank you very much for making time for Newsday today.
Thank you.
Could you please give us a brief background of the genesis of Unite? What brought Good, Rise, and BOSA together to the table?
So I think the true genesis is the outcome of the 2024 elections, where we saw a large-scale fragmentation of voting, where voters were choosing between parties that shared similar values and similar policy proposals in order to fix South Africa's problems. And so, as a reflection of the outcome of that election, it was clear that what South Africa needed was not more political parties, but a consolidation of political parties who have very little that divides them. And so that we can create a much more impactful bloc and offering to our voters. We can pool the skills and talents and resources that are within these parties that are fragmented, and therefore we can field candidates in towns and cities that are able to govern and have the skills. So we pool our resources, both financial and human resources, and we solve the voters' cry for fewer political parties to be emerging and for those who have very little that divides them to work together so that they can unite behind us. So we're uniting for change as three political parties now. We are engaged with other political parties to join us, but we're also asking South Africans to unite with us in order to bring about the change that we so desperately need.
And adding on to that, for the decision of contesting under one banner of Unite, is it to also avoid sort of the chaos that we saw post 2024 with, for example, there was that multi-party charter coalition pact. I know Good or BOSA or Rise wasn't part of it, but the second the election results came in, that coalition pact fell by the wayside. So is this to ensure that there's from elections you're able to go straight into the negotiations, whether it's coalitions, etc., for it to be consolidated?
So, I mean, the outcome of our decision gives us that opportunity, because the decision was not made to replicate the multi-party charter or the Moonshot Pact. Nor was it made on the basis of the outcome of that project, which failed dismally. As I said, this project was really long in the making, actually probably before the 2024 elections, if we go back to when parties there was first engagements between us. So there's a long history to this, to the announcement that Unite for Change would be launched. But the result is that in the 2026 local government elections, we will have one political vehicle or one political party on the ballot paper. That's Unite for Change, and Good, Rise, BOSA, and any other party that joins us will contest under that banner. So we're effectively starting a new political party that will converge several political parties. And so after the election results are announced, if we have to deal with coalitions, it will be Unite for Change as one party, engaging with other political parties around coalitions. Instead of the multi-party charter was really a pre-coalition pact between a number of political parties who then went on to compete against each other, which we don't intend to do.
In a press briefing yesterday, there was a very powerful statement that was made that said it is no secret that South Africa is in the grips of a governance crisis from continent's economic capital to smaller municipalities, citizens feel the collapse of service delivery on a daily basis. Taps run dry, roads crumble, and refuse is left to pile up on the streets. And then you add that it doesn't have to be this way. How did our municipalities, how have we gotten to this place? And are we past the point of return?
Well, I think part of what we're saying as Unite is that we got to this point because capable and ethical South Africans are not stepping forward to help govern towns and cities. And so our call is for those capable and ethical community activists, professionals who are concerned about what is happening in their towns and cities, who are critical about the failures of governance, that who have the skills to help us change these towns and cities. We're asking them to step forward and to govern with us. So the failure of governance is a failure of leadership. And the leadership vacuum is filled by people who don't have the skills or capacity or even the interest in fixing these problems. They are there because it's a job and it's an opportunity to earn an income, and maybe it's an opportunity to access the trough and to feed illegally. So in other words, to eat. And so when good people or when capable, ethical people don't step forward and make themselves available to lead, that vacuum is filled by people who don't have the right intentions and don't have the skills and don't have the interest to do so. So the problems in our municipalities are a problem of leadership, and our call is to South Africans with skills, with the right passion, to step forward to fill the vacuum and not allow those who are not interested in governing for the sake of serving others, but rather who are interested in earning an income and serving themselves. We need to replace those people with better leaders. And we don't think that our municipalities are beyond the point of no return. They can be fixed. They just need the right leaders. And so this is a call to South Africans to step up, to make themselves available, to help us, unite with us, to turn these municipalities around. It is possible to do. We just need the right skills and the right passion and the right commitment in the room.
100%. And as you're saying, it's getting the campaign is centered around injecting a fresh and new type of good ethical leadership. You spoke yesterday about the vetting process of your candidates. It's a 5-stage vetting process. Could you please unpack this process and how the sort of people you want to apply, how it is unique? Just expand a little bit about this process you guys are embarking on now.
So it's a process we announced yesterday. It's open to South Africans, as I said, who will subscribe to the values that we are promoting and championing, who subscribe to the need for social justice to prevail in our towns and cities in our country. And the starting point is the application process. So in order to stand as a Unite for Change candidate councillor or councillor, you need to apply, and there's an online process on our website, which is uniteforchangesa.org. You need to be a member of the party. So if you're not a member yet, you join the party first. It's free, and then you make your candidate application. We will be vetting education qualifications that people claim they have. Qualifications are not a barrier to entry, but if you claim to have a degree, we're going to check that you have it. We're going to check criminal records. So that's the vetting process. There will also be, part of the vetting process will be interview panels and engagements with panels that we set up to assess what you claim in your CV. We are asking those who step forward to present endorsements. So we want candidates who are supported by their communities. If you're going to represent a ward as Unite for Change councillor, we want to know that you have the support of members in your community. And so we are asking for written endorsements from communities that you're intending to serve. So this is not a imposed candidate, but a candidate who has support in the community. And we've also designed a minimum program that candidates will have to embark upon, which includes, the first thing is to get the endorsements, to have a town hall meeting where you introduce yourself to the community, listen to the community and what they are concerned about, and make sure that you feed that into our campaign messaging and our campaign commitments. And there'll be other parts of the program, like continuous town hall meetings or community meetings, programs to register new voters to vote, programs to prepare for election day. And so there's a campaign program. So there's a 5-step process. You apply, you're vetted, you have endorsements, you roll out your campaign program that we've outlined, and then we announce publicly who our candidates will be. And so there's a public profiling of the candidates.
And you are competing in across the 8 metropolitans, and you are still deciding on the other municipalities that you will contest in. But for these strategic municipalities that you've chosen, I know it's early days, but does Unite already have almost a program of action? If it were to hold the mayorship, what needs to be, if just say in Johannesburg, for example, what needs to be tackled upon entering office?
So we've identified the 8 metros as we will contest the 8 metros. We are in the process of finalizing where we will contest in other towns and around the country. And we've identified already about 40 of them that we have agreed to contest in. We will add municipalities as we add others to our tent. So the parties that we're engaging with around the country, if they join Unite for Change and they are represented in towns as local municipalities, then we will contest where they are joining us. So they join us to contest in the name of Unite for Change. So it's not a fixed list of municipalities. And then we have already prepared a high-level manifesto, which is our national commitment, which includes things like we're going to ensure that we have ethical and capable leaders, that we deliver dignity through basic services, that we drive local economic development so that our local economies are designed around what towns and cities can provide and deliver. Each town and city is unique. And we can make a commitment to digitization so that we can eradicate corruption. And we can also use digital tools like AI to project and model what towns and cities will need in the future. And then the next step is to launch mayoral candidates and local campaign plans as well. So we will have a plan for Johannesburg, and there are a number of crises in Johannesburg, including obviously the water delivery crisis, the conditions of infrastructure, the financing crisis, and it's amazing that we're still talking about the billing crisis in Johannesburg. So we will have a plan for Johannesburg. We'll have a plan for Cape Town, where we'll tackle probably one of the most pressing crises in Cape Town is the affordability of housing, the access to housing in Cape Town. So we will have a national campaign theme, and we'll have plans for each municipality. And that work of developing those plans is currently underway. We'll announce that probably early in the new year.
Okay. And some parties have, because it's almost a certainty that in every metro, there's likely going to be a coalition. And some parties have already drawn a line in the sand, saying the DA saying they won't work with the EFF and MK, for example. Has Unite drawn a line in the sand about who they could, about potential partners? If not, sort of in negotiations as a two-parter, what are the non-negotiables for Unite when sitting down at the negotiations table?
I think, I hope that all South Africans have learned from the 2024 elections that it is bad for the country, bad for our towns and cities if parties, before we've even got to the election date, start saying we're not going to work with this one and we're not going to work with that one. I mean, we have a government of national unity that, if you were to draw the spectrum of political policies, you have far-right parties like the Freedom Front Plus, the Democratic Alliance, working with progressive parties like the ANC, like Good, like Rise Mzansi, all in one government of national unity. So it's impossible to say we've drawn, to draw red lines. I mean, the DA, for example, had claimed that they drew a red line for that they would never work with the EFF. We must remember that in 2016, Herman Mashaba was elected as a DA mayor of the city of Johannesburg with the EFF support. In Theewaterskloof, a municipality in the Western Cape, the DA reached out to the EFF to try and help them govern when they had some difficulties with Good in the way that we were co-governing with them. So these lines in the sand are artificial, and when it comes down to trying to put governments together, they become meaningless because we need to find each other to build stable governments. So we will be guided by our party's commitments, which will be to addressing the historical legacies of injustice that continue to prevail in South Africa today, and how, as a member of a coalition government, that coalition government, it will tackle those kinds of problems. So we'll be guided by practical solutions that each town and municipality needs, and whether our coalition partners or potential coalition partners are committed to tackling those problems. And each town and municipality has their own priority of a crisis. And if we can agree on how we're going to tackle those, or that we will tackle them, we will work with the parties that we agree with.
Mm. Yes, and in your statement on the 9th, you used the example of Johannesburg again about as one of the focal points of next elections, speaking about how it serves as a prime example of the lack of depth and leadership in governance in the continent's economic hub. You criticized for the DA choosing Helen Zille as its candidate. Could you please expand on that and linking to the coalition discussion? Because I think for the everyday voter, it seems uh, difficult because in one minute, Helen will go on a show and say all sorts of things about Good, all sorts of things about Unite, all good sorts of things about BOSA, and vice versa. But at the end of the day, it might be a case where there would have to be coalitions between the two. So could you please expand on that?
Well, I think let's start with the failure of leadership that the people of the city of Johannesburg have experienced. We can't deny that there's been a failure of leadership, and that they've had about 9 mayors in the last decade. So, I mean, the instability of leadership in the city of Johannesburg is part of the collapse of the infrastructure problem. And the Democratic Alliance is partly responsible for that. I mean, they were governing. For some reason, they lost the support of their coalition partners. At one point, according to Herman Mashaba, Helen Zille was working with the ANC to try and unseat him as a Democratic Alliance mayor while he was representing the Democratic Alliance. So the Democratic Alliance is a destabilizing force in local government because they are unprincipled and they govern according to the need for power. And so whatever motivated Helen to try and unseat Mashaba, whatever motivated the DA to not defend Mpho Palazi's leadership of the city, those are the things that they must answer for. And when they talk about other political parties, and particularly smaller political parties, as they would call them, as being the destabilizing forces in local government, they must look at their own conduct, and voters must look at their own conduct and identify that it is the so-called larger, or we would say older parties, the older dying parties, that have been stabilizing local government because their instinct is to cling to power. And so that's the one narrative. the second part is, Helen will go on in the next couple of months and she will try and define Unite for Change as a small party that is not worth supporting because you will be wasting your vote. There's no such thing as a wasted vote. And what we're saying is that it's time that South Africans get the opportunity to choose both competence and values in the same party. Very often people will say, I voted for the DA, but I don't really support their policies, but because they seem to be the most competent. We're going to offer you voters as Unite for Change competence and values in one political party, where you can feel comfortable that you're voting according to your commitment to South Africa and its need for transformation and the ability to govern. After the elections, we will engage with the DA if we have to in the city of Johannesburg around forming a government, but we may engage with other parties and not the DA. We'll have to see how the voters choose parties in the end. Helen's rhetoric around criticizing good, BOSA, Rise, Unite for Change is not going to influence really our decision around coalitions. She's politicking at the moment, and it's going to get more heated between all the political parties. But we hope to present as people of Johannesburg with someone who's not going to be in that mess of a fight between Helen and maybe Herman Mashaba. We're going to present a visionary, hopeful leader that can lead Johannesburg out of its current crisis. And if we have to engage in coalition discussions, Helen's current rhetoric is not going to influence that.
I know it's very soon to speak about it as the vetting process is only opened, and you said you're going to offer a new, fresh alternative for Johannesburg Mayor rather than the Zille Mashaba rematch. Is there a possibility because Helen Zille is running on that she successfully ran Cape Town, Minister de Lille could equally do the same thing? She also ran Cape Town well. Is that a possibility of running Minister de Lille as a Metro Mayor, given her track record as Cape Town Mayor?
Well, look, I would say that Minister de Lille has a better track record of governing Cape Town than Helen Zille does. First of all, Helen Zille only governed as mayor of Cape Town for 2 years, half of which during that time, she was campaigning to be the DA leader. And she didn't have the 5 clean audits in a row that de Lille turned the city of Cape Town around and started delivering clean audits and delivery where people were needing it the most. So if you look at de Lille's record on governing Cape Town versus Zille's pales by comparison. She cannot compare on any metric to the level and the standard of excellence that de Lille led the city of Cape Town, because de Lille's leadership was governed not only by ensuring that it was well governed, so we got the clean audits, but she also made sure that the people who needed government support the most got it. But I don't see that. We've opened our process to recruit mayoral candidates. Helen Zille has lived in Cape Town for 40 years. Patricia de Lille's lived here probably the same amount of time, maybe a bit longer. But Patricia de Lille is a Western Cape resident through and through, and I would say Helen Zille is as well. And I can't speak for her. Maybe she'll throw her hat in the ring, but I can't see her pretending to be a Johannesburger when she's not. And unfortunately, that's what Helen Zille is doing.
My second last question is the questions around the collective leadership. How is Unite finding the synergy between the different leaders from the different political parties? Because often in politics, what you see in different parties with Maibuya, for example, it's tussles for power. How are you finding the synergy in Unite?
It's been an encouraging journey. We've brought 3 parties together at the moment. We're talking to a number of others, and we haven't had squabbles about who is the leader. And I think that has been it's a fresh way of dealing with things, where we try and find consensus, and we have found consensus on most things, most of the important things. A collective leadership of a political party is not really unique. All the other political parties may have the leader, but most of them who are democratically elected by structures through some conference will immediately own the fact that they are part of a collective leadership. And although they are the leader, like the president of the ANC is Cyril Ramaphosa, he will, when he speaks, he will have his mandate from a collective, which is his NEC and his National Working Committee. John Steenhuisen is the federal leader of the Democratic Alliance, but when he speaks or does something, his mandate comes from the federal executive and the federal council of the DA. So collective leadership exists across parties who operate democratically. And at this point in time, we haven't selected a leader. We're operating with a very transparent collective leadership. And there are a number of reasons that it makes sense right now. We haven't yet finished putting Unite for Change together. I mean, as I said, there are other parties that we're talking to. Some political parties operate at a national level. They need to go to a conference in order to get a mandate to be part of us. We also have smaller parties that operate locally. And by finalizing a leadership structure with a leader and a chairperson and a secretary general, whatever you want to call it, we would be excluding the opportunity for those parties to become part of this process. So this collective leadership is working well. We, as the National Management Committee has got 6 of us on it, 2 from each party at the moment. On the weekend, we had a combined national leadership meeting of all the political parties online on Saturday evening. That meeting went really, really well. And on Sunday, we launched the campaign to recruit candidates as 3 political parties coming together. So the collective leadership has worked well, and it is serving its purpose, which is to make sure that we are not excluding any other party that still wants to be part of us.
And just to try fish fish off of there, are there any hints? I know you'll play the cards close to your chest, but of possible announcements of organizations joining in the pipeline anytime soon? Can we expect anything anytime soon of new organizations?
Look, when we're going to announce them is hard to say, because it's not only for us to announce, it's parties that are democratically constituted, or organizations that are democratically constituted have their own internal processes to follow. So we may be talking to the leadership of a political party, but they need a mandate from their members and their supporters and their structures in order to make a final decision. So we're ready to announce when our party, the people that we're engaging with and the parties we're engaging with are ready to be announced. And so I imagine that over the next few months, we will announce probably as others are ready to announce. But we expect that we will start adding structures to our party over the next 2 or 3 months.
And to conclude, final question is Unite's message to the South African public. We have a lot of political parties. There's a lot of voter apathy in the country. Why should the public put their faith in Unite come 2026 local government elections?
I think if we were to sum it up, let's sum it up this way. Politics affects everybody. And politics is way too important to leave in the hands of politicians. And so we are now, as I keep saying over and over again, we're looking for capable, ethical leaders to step forward and lead. We're not looking for professional politicians. We're looking for capable, ethical South Africans to step forward and lead. Because the breakdown of governance in our towns and cities is what impacts the poorest people the most, because they rely on government for their services the most. And if you want to address those challenges and create a town and a city that functions for everybody, that starts to show economic growth, that addresses poverty and unemployment, you have to start with people who are capable of leading and governing. So we're saying, look at both our values and our policies, which are to address the challenges of those who rely on government the most, and then find that we also can match that with the capacity, the capability, and the ethical leadership that will solve those problems. The two are not separable. So we're asking people to look not only at what the message is, but who is the messenger? And is the messenger a credible leader who can actually deliver on what they are promising to deliver on?
Brett Herron, he is a leader from Unite for Change. Thank you very much for making time for Newsday today.
Thank you.